Welcome to the 87th video in our series about Unix tools. In this video, I'm going to continue showing you how to use Git for a simple one-person project. In this video, I'll use Git in typical ways and explain what I'm doing. But first, let's review what we did in the last video. In the previous video, we created a git ignore file containing file name patterns for files we want the Git tool to ignore. And if we cat that so we can see the contents, you can see we ignore object files, static archives, the shared libraries. I guess these are also called static libraries, shared libraries, and we needed two patterns. Remember all those symlinks we created. I also added core. We haven't shown this much, but I did show it when we did GDB some time back. A core file is created if you get the segmentation fault core dumped or bus error core dumped. Errors which can occur in C and C++ languages when you do something bad with a pointer and the program crashes. Finally, we listed our application name test.me because we don't want to check in binary files. So all of these patterns are for generated files. They're not source code. And Git should be used to track source code and perhaps read-only data. You can track images or multimedia, but you should not track generated files. And after we created the git ignore, we had to commit that in a separate commit. We also learned how to use our repository like a time machine and go back to an old version of our code using git checkout and then the commit hash. And we learned it's okay to look and you could build the code and run it, but do not change that code. Okay, if you do, you're going to wind up with branching, and I told you we're not going to do any branching, so don't go there. To undo the git checkout hash, you do a git checkout master, and if you haven't built any files, you're safe. If you built some files, make sure you do the make with the dist clean, and then you do the git checkout master, and you change the head pointer back to the last commit, and you're ready to keep on working. So okay, that's enough about the past. Let's do something new. I'm in here. I checked my status, and there are no changes. Nothing's been staged and nothing's changed on the disk. So let's say I go in here and I say, ooh, I'm going to go change factorial. And I look at that and I say, double fact. And I do, if an n greater than 1, I do this, and I said, oh, it's recursive. I want to do a loop, you know. So I'm gonna change this code. And I'm gonna declare int I equal 1. Or maybe I'll make it n. And I'll do a countdown loop. And then I can do something like for I is equal to n. And then I is greater than 0. And I can decrement I. Probably a post decrement. Then I have my loop body. And since we're multiplying, I have to say something like whatever answer times equals I. And if I think about it, that's probably all I need. And then I can return I. And I think, that looks pretty good. All right, I is in. We have to set up answer. And we want answer to be a double. Whoops. So we have to say something like answer equals 0.0. And then, we probably want to make that a double. Okay. And then Is that going to work? Well, let's see. 0 times anything is 0. This is probably not going to work. Maybe we need to make that a 1. And we stop when we get to 2. Okay. And we say, okay, I'm going to make that. Oh, I got all kind of errors. Factorial answer undeclared. And I'm thinking, well, I got double answer. Okay. Fail. And at this point, I'm depressed. It's almost time to go home. I've made this change, and it turns out this change is just no good. Okay, I'm not happy with this change at all. And I want to forget about this change. So what can I do to fix it? I mean, if I do a get status, it shows factorial has been modified, but it hasn't been added yet. But it is modified. And I don't want to change anything else, but I want to undo any changes I've done to factorial. Well, I can do a git checkout factorial.c. And if I do that, and do a get status, it works. And if I look at factorial.c, you can see I've got my original working version that was the recursive, maybe a little slow, but at least it worked version. And I got rid of my bad attempt at an iterative solution. So, and you can see, wow, my number was way off, 0.4 instead of 0.7071. Okay. I fixed everything. How did I fix it? Well, we can take a look at the history. Last 30 entries or so. And you can see this is the magic command right here. What I said was, hey, git, check out. And then I didn't give any options. The minus just says whatever's after this is not an option. It's a file name. And then I told him what to check out. Factorial.c. I don't want to check out the whole hash, right? I don't want to check out the whole commit, because some of the other files might be fine. I just want this one file updated to the last good version that I had from the last commit. And that's what that did. So that's how one way you can undo a disaster. And sadly, disasters happen more often than you think. You think you have a great idea, and you go in there and you modify the code. And of course, since this is a 10-minute video, I couldn't go in there and spend a lot of time debugging it. But in a more complex situation, you might have spent several hours trying to debug it, trying to fix it, and you just finally say, no, let's go back to the old version again. And so this is how you do it for a single file. All right. The last video ran long, so I think it's only fair that this one runs a little short. I've shown you one thing, but is one thing you'll need often, which is if you've made some changes to a file and you decide you just don't want them and you haven't added it yet, you can use a command like this and just change factorial.c to whatever file it is you're having trouble with, and that will undo everything by getting a fresh copy of factorial.c from the last good check-in and put it on top of, overwriting, replacing the factorial.c you have right now. Okay. I think that this short format means we need to stop now, and we'll continue next time with some more Git But until then, thank you for listening.